And all those clanging gates, boom,
Yeah.
and then she's alone, and you hear that sort of subterranean, all the air ventilation shafts that rumble.
He does not yell. He does not rant. Hopkins does not need volume. He needs silence, the kind that chills a room.
I learned the entire text or script. I had several weeks to prepare it, especially the Supreme Court.
Across 5 decades, Anthony Hopkins has delivered performances of controlled devastation. From Hannibal Lecter's whisper to Pope Benedict's fragility, his mastery lies in restraint. But behind that composure is a man with a long memory.
Good morning. Anthony is a nice name. Anthony, don't you think?
It's a very nice name.
Oh,
There are no other Williams in this house, I take it?
true. May I ask you in future, Mr. Kenton, to address my father?
Ah, yes, Dr. Chilton. Gruesome, isn't he? He fumbles at your head like a freshman pulling at a panty girdle.
He does not forget a line or a betrayal. And when an actor breaks the trust, derails the rhythm, or brings ego to the craft, Hopkins remembers, not with a scream, but with distance.
Because if you hit the ceiling all the time, the audience gets dull. They may as well go to the pub and get drunk next door. So he said, don't show too much, just contain.
He has shared the screen with giants, but not all giants earn respect. Some tested his patience, some insulted the work, and a few he simply could not stand. Here are 6 actors Anthony Hopkins revealed, or made brutally clear, he hated the most, and why their presence was never welcome again. Number 1, Richard Harris. 2 men, 1 crown, and no space for compromise. On the set of The Field in the early 1990s, Richard Harris and Anthony Hopkins clashed like ancient titans. Hopkins, known for his precision and detachment, was met with Harris's volcanic temperament. What began as creative tension soon unraveled into open contempt. Hopkins later described Harris as a man constantly at war with everyone, including himself. Their on-set conflict became legendary, not because of physical fights, but because of the unspoken venom that colored every shared scene.
The widow will get £50 from me for The Field, the silly woman. The priest will get his Easter Jews.
Hopkins built performances like architecture, measured, minimal, refined. Harris built his like a siege. He yelled between takes. He mocked blocking. He once slammed a table mid-rehearsal and demanded that the script be burned. Hopkins, ever composed, said nothing, but left the room without a word. Their director, Jim Sheridan, had to schedule scenes around their moods. He exploded at things that weren't there. Production became a pressure cooker. Harris resented Hopkins' control. Hopkins dreaded Harris's volatility. A crew member recalled that when a lighting rig fell during a scene, Harris blamed Hopkins for inviting bad energy. Hopkins didn't flinch. He wanted the chaos. I wanted the scene. By the final week, they were barely speaking. Sheridan, exhausted, admitted the edit was a miracle. When asked years later if they ever reconciled, Hopkins responded only, "We did the work. That was enough."
Where Richard did the scene, I didn't like it. And he went nuts, and I said to him I'd redo the scene on the last day.
Harris once called him the Ice King. Hopkins never replied. When Harris died, Hopkins offered no eulogy, just a pause. 2 men, 1 frame, no forgiveness. For Hopkins, Harris wasn't an enemy. He was a test, one he had no wish to take twice. Number 2, Shirley MacLaine. Anthony Hopkins doesn't often speak harshly in public, but when he described Shirley MacLaine as the most obnoxious actress I ever worked with, the words landed like a thunderclap. The 2 co-starred in the television film A Change of Seasons, and their chemistry on screen was icy for a reason. Hopkins, the disciplined technician, found MacLaine's spiritualism and self-importance unbearable. What was meant to be a quiet drama behind snowy windows turned into an emotional frost behind the camera.
Morning!
It's for you.
I know.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
MacLaine didn't just act, she lectured. Between takes, she spoke about reincarnation, energy channels, and spirit vibrations. She altered dialogue based on past life resonance. Hopkins, who believed in clarity and stillness, found himself slowly unraveling. He once said working with her felt like trying to whisper in a hurricane. To him, her behavior wasn't eccentric, it was disruptive. She resisted blocking, broke lines mid-take, and often argued with the director over metaphysical meanings. Crew members described Hopkins quietly leaving set during rehearsals, muttering to himself in disbelief.
By the way, I've had past life experiences in damn near every country I've been to, and you know I'm a guerrilla traveler.
In interviews after filming, MacLaine described the experience as spiritually strained. Hopkins never engaged, but when pressed about the film years later, he responded with one dry sentence: "Some things are best left unspoken." A Change of Seasons flopped. Critics called it distant, but behind the frost was a fire Hopkins never wanted to revisit. For him, the set is a temple of focus, and Shirley MacLaine brought too many ghosts inside. Number 3, Tom Cruise. They never acted together, and perhaps that was the point. Hopkins once directed Cruise in Mission Impossible 2, and while the film delivered box office returns, behind the scenes Hopkins reportedly found Cruise impossible to direct. The issue wasn't ability, it was control. Cruise wanted energy, spectacle, dominance. Hopkins wanted nuance. The two philosophies never found harmony, and Hopkins later distanced himself from the project entirely, calling blockbuster action soulless. His opinion of Cruise was left unsaid, but heavily implied. Hopkins came to the director's chair with the same approach he brought to acting: clarity, stillness, emotional truth. But Cruise arrived like a studio in motion. He oversaw stunts, rewrote beats, demanded reshoots with different emotional tones. Hopkins reportedly told producers, "I'm not directing a film, I'm chasing a franchise."
Okay, Tom, we're ready to go. Stepping out, guys. This is just another day at work on Mission Impossible.
He didn't want direction, he wanted a mirror. During production, tensions grew. Cruise had final cut approval and used it. Scenes were trimmed, character moments cut in favor of spectacle. Hopkins, who had envisioned a more grounded thriller, was left disillusioned. Years later, when asked about the experience, he simply said, "I don't remember much." It was loud. Critics called the film stylish but empty. Hopkins called it a lesson. He never directed again. Cruise continued on, building his brand around velocity, spectacle, dominance. Hopkins returned to character work: quiet, brutal, unforgettable.
What is this nonsense?
What are you talking about?
Ooh.
They were never meant to share the screen, and they never did. For Hopkins, Cruise wasn't an actor to be guided. He was a force to step away from. Because sometimes silence isn't an absence, it's a choice. Number 4, Jonathan Pryce. This one surprised many. Hopkins and Pryce shared the screen in The Two Popes, both earning Oscar nominations. But behind the spiritual reflections was a storm of tension. Hopkins, always a lone wolf on set, found Pryce's method approach grating. Sources claimed Hopkins referred to Pryce as a theater actor playing film, implying a lack of subtlety. Though the film soared, their relationship never did. It was mutual professionalism, but never mutual trust.
No, you're mistaken. You are mistaken.
I believe in God. I pray to God. Silence!
Pryce came from the stage: Shakespeare, Chekhov, West End royalty. His performances were large, shaped by breath, posture, and presence. Hopkins respected that, but only from a distance. On camera, Hopkins believed in vanishing into a role. Pryce, in his eyes, could never quite disappear. He brought projection. I needed presence. During production, their rehearsals were cordial but cold. Hopkins preferred minimal takes: quick, precise, economical. Pryce wanted exploration. He asked for retakes, dwelled in pauses. Hopkins once told a crew member, "He's playing to the rafters, but the rafters aren't here."
I knew my sinews grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. Remember thee.
Despite the tension, the performances meshed. The film was a success, but the off-camera atmosphere was noticeably quiet. They rarely spoke between scenes. Their press tour was efficient, never intimate. In interviews, Hopkins deflected questions about the working relationship. Pryce called Hopkins a master of solitude. There was no feud, just frost. Two actors embodying popes who disagreed, mirroring a truth neither could fake. For Hopkins, the camera demands intimacy, and Jonathan Pryce never stopped speaking to the balcony. Number 5. Gwyneth Paltrow. Proof was meant to be a quiet father-daughter drama, but Hopkins later hinted it was one of his most uncomfortable filming experiences. He never named Paltrow directly, but in several interviews he spoke of actors who arrived unprepared, who acted like the film was a fashion shoot. For a man who memorized Shakespeare entire, that kind of levity was offensive. Insiders later confirmed it was Gwyneth Paltrow he meant. The trust was broken and never mended.
Before I could pour the milk in, it was like someone turned the light on in my head.
Really?
Yeah, not the light, the whole power grid. I lit up.
On set, Paltrow was charming, popular, and often distracted. She arrived late, adjusted lines, and reportedly treated scenes like background for a magazine spread. Hopkins, who believes in full emotional immersion, was stunned. He described the experience as like rehearsing King Lear beside someone scrolling through perfume ads. Hopkins, by his own admission, is not an easy man to impress. But what bothered him wasn't inexperience, it was disregard. He believed Paltrow wasn't listening. Not to the director, not to the scene, and certainly not to him. One crew member said Hopkins began retreating deeper into his trailer between takes, refusing to discuss character beats unless asked directly. She was performing for another lens, not mine. Despite the chilly process, the film was well received. Critics praised Hopkins's restraint, called his portrayal quietly shattering, but he never spoke about it with pride. When asked about proof in a later interview, he offered just one word: difficult. Some silences speak louder than conflict. For Hopkins, Paltrow wasn't offensive. She was absent, present in the frame, but missing from the moment. And for a man who listens deeply, that was the one thing he couldn't forgive. Number 6. Alec Baldwin. In The Edge, Baldwin and Hopkins played two men trapped in the wilderness. What audiences didn't see was a third enemy: ego. Hopkins has never hidden his disdain for actors who show up late, who improvise to steal the frame, who make it about themselves. Baldwin, known for his outbursts and improvisational style, clashed almost immediately with Hopkins's rigor. The director managed to hold the project together, but Hopkins left the set vowing never to work with Baldwin again. "Some actors exhaust you," he said later. He was one. Baldwin was electric, unpredictable, and emotionally unfiltered. That may have worked for television, but on a tight outdoor shoot in the Canadian Rockies, it pushed patience to the edge. Hopkins, a craftsman, wanted rhythm. Baldwin brought raw volume. He argued with producers, mocked dialogue, and pushed to rewrite scenes on the fly. He thought chaos made it real. I thought it made it impossible. Their styles clashed like weather systems. One moment, intense focus. The next, derailed by improvisation. Hopkins began doing fewer takes, avoiding eye contact between scenes. He later told a friend, "It was like trying to play chamber music next to a guy banging a trash can."
What a beautiful place. What a great night. I have to tell you, being here with all of you in Event Room C.
Even director Lee Tamahori admitted that managing the two stars was a balancing act. The film survived because of clever editing, not collaboration. The tension between the characters on screen mirrored their dynamic off it. But for Hopkins, the process was draining, not dramatic. He filled the space with sound. I wanted silence. They never worked together again, not even at a distance. For Hopkins, Alec Baldwin wasn't just difficult. He was the noise that drowned out the scene. Anthony Hopkins never made it about feuds. He made it about focus. To him, acting was a sacred exchange, one that demanded trust, discipline, and silence between the lines. The 6 names we explored weren't enemies. They were fractures in that sacred space. Each clash revealed something deeper, not about drama, but about devotion, about how one man, so known for playing monsters, refused to let ego corrupt the work. Hopkins didn't raise his voice. He didn't retaliate. He simply remembered who disrupted the rhythm and never invited them back. Because for Hopkins, legacy wasn't built through alliances or headlines. It was shaped in stillness, in preparation, in knowing when not to speak and when to never return. His story is a reminder that greatness often walks alone, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. Because for some artists, silence is the only way to protect the truth. These stories aren't just about conflict. They're about the cost of care in an industry built on chaos. Let us know which name surprised you most, and subscribe for more hidden histories from behind the camera. Because in Hollywood, silence sometimes says the most.